Like I said, man, once the NFL season gets started, it feels like when you get to the summer months, it's taking forever, you're foaming at the mouth, and can't wait for it to come. And when it finally does, it just seems to fly right by. We're already through week 5. That's crazy. So let's talk about the week that was, week 5 of the 2022 NFL season. And it all started, regrettably, on Thursday night. Oh my God. And that's, frankly, what America deserved on Thursday night, wasn't it? Like, America's earned that. They earned that terrible game, and we all, frankly, earned the right for that terrible game to force us to sit and watch some more in overtime. And oh my God, as bad as it wasn't as bad for the Colts. They win 12-9. That's the type of whiz-banging, no TD type of game we're talking about here. And the Broncos lose. They're 2-3. And so much for that Russell Wilson trade so far, huh? Oy, oy, oy. Anyways, moving on. Flip over to the Sunday games. And it all started with another morning tilt over there in jolly old London, England. And the Giants must have had their bangers and mash at halftime, because they certainly came out like a house of fire in the second half, put up 17 straight second half points, and came back to beat the Green Bay Packers 27-22. And lo and behold, what do you know? The New York Giants are 4-1. Who would have had that happening through 5 weeks, huh? In other news, in Sunday's slate of games, you had Kenny Pickett making his first start for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Yeah, your first start's against the Buffalo Bills. Whoopsie daisies. Meanwhile, Josh Allen goes for over 400 yards passing and 4 touchdowns, and the Bills destroy the Steelers 38-3. The Chargers tried their best to give it away, especially head coach Brandon Staley going for it on 4th down. Sometimes I love aggressiveness, and sometimes it's just stupid, and the line between those two is very, very thin indeed. But Cade York missed 2 field goals, including one that could have won the game late. Chargers hold off the Browns 32-28. The Minnesota Vikings stormed out to a 21-3 first half lead, driven primarily by Kirk Cousins starting off the game 17 for 17, and the Bears' courageous strategy of we're just not going to cover Justin Jefferson at all. But the Bears rallied and actually took a 22-21 lead in the 4th quarter, only for the Vikings to score a late touchdown, get the 2-point conversion, and have enough to get past the Bears 29-22. Maybe somebody should have told the Lions that you play every week in the NFL, as it would have been a nice memo for them to get, because they sure didn't show up on Sunday. Meanwhile, the Patriots behind their 3rd-string quarterback Bailey Zappi did enough, and they skunked the Lions 29-0. Taysom Hill went off for 4 combined touchdowns, including the long touchdown run to give the Saints the lead for good. Saints beat the Seahawks 39-32. Teddy Bridgewater ruled out for no good reason. I'm going to stick with that one. Jets pounced as a result, and they end up blowing out the Dolphins 40-17 on the strength of 5 rushing touchdowns. 4 different players had a rushing touchdown for the Jets on Sunday. That's old school, almost Bears football. Well, not 5 rushing touchdowns, because that means you have to actually score 5 touchdowns in a game. That's not Bears football. But all of your touchdowns coming via running the ball, that certainly is. Remember, if you will, Grady Jarrett, I just give you this advice one time. Don't tackle a quarterback, ever. Certainly don't tackle him if he's 45-year-old Tom Brady, because it's not going to turn out well for you. The Falcons were down 21-0 going into the 4th quarter, but put up a couple of touchdowns, had themselves in a position where they could potentially get the ball back and have a chance to win it, as unlikely as that seems. But a horrendous roughing the passer call helped the Bucs escape past the Falcons 21-15. David Long had a game-clinching goal line interception, helping the Titans hold off the Commanders 21-17. The Commanders are at bay, and they're 1-4. And you'll wonder how much longer Ron Rivera will be there if this keeps up. Trevor Lawrence with a meh kind of day. As much as you see some young quarterbacks get criticized, he doesn't seem to get criticized enough. He ain't that great either right now. But meanwhile, the Texans get their first win of the season under Lovie Smith, 13-6. Yeah, that feels like a Lovie Smith coach game, that's for damn sure. The Panthers, one last time, put up a Matt Fool, spelled R-H-U-L-E. You're going to think to yourself, just think about it, that's Matt Fool. They put up a Matt Fool-worthy effort. One more time, 49ers were able to coast easily, 37-15. And now Matt Rule has about 40.5 million reasons to sit there and do nothing for the next couple of years. The Cowboys defense forced a couple of turnovers, score a touchdown, hold down the Rams offense, and win 22-10 And there's major trouble for the defending Super Bowl champions who now sit at 2-3 and no real signs of turning it around anytime soon. Dicker the kicker, like to have a kicker with the last name of Dicker. Like, we don't talk about this much, do we? We don't talk about this nearly enough. Dicker the kicker. What are you going to do to her? I'm going to dick her with my kicker. Like, this is just fantastic. Like, this whole video should just be talking about Dicker the kicker. But nonetheless, he hit a game-winning 23-yard field goal with under 2 minutes left, and the Eagles get past the Cardinals 20-17, and the Eagles still sit 5-0 now, your lone undefeated team in the NFL. Justin Tucker on Sunday night booted 4 field goals, including a 43-yard game winner with 3 seconds left. The Ravens get past the Bengals 19-17. And in Monday night action, the Raiders stormed out to a big lead, which basically means the Chiefs say, hey, we're down 17-0. We got them right where we want them. And that sure feels like that, doesn't it? But even then, the Raiders continue to fight back. Their late decision to go for 2 ultimately cost them, and the Chiefs win what was a pretty exciting game on Monday night, 30-29. Now, shifting focus here to talk about the winners and losers from week number 5. In terms of the winners, I'll go back to the New York Giants. They didn't just win to go 4-1. They scored 17 points in the second half. Like, they put it on the Packers in the second half. They beat a Packers team that you're looking at as potentially one of the contenders in the NFC. Need to keep pace with the Cowboys and the Eagles in that division, and the Giants did that. That was a hell of a job. The Dallas Cowboys, talking about a team that had their backup quarterback. They're not winning because of Cooper Rush, but they're not losing games with him or because of him right now, if that makes sense. Like, they're doing enough. They got other aspects of the team that are kicking in, especially that defense right now. The Cowboys are 4-1, and you say, Dak who right now, don't you? But they're able to keep somewhat pace with the Eagles in the NFC East, and that sets up a monster matchup next week between those two teams. And then the Baltimore Ravens, that's a big win against a divisional opponent. Like, if you're the Ravens right now, you're getting yourself an early advantage, and you're hoping you could carry it on the rest of the way, hopefully to win that division. It was a big win for them on Sunday night for sure. In terms of the losers, like, obviously America for having to watch that game on Thursday night, but more specifically the Denver Broncos. Not just because they lost, or not just because they look bad, but they've got 160-plus million guaranteed reasons to hope to God that Russell Wilson doesn't continue to suck like he has mostly for the first 5 weeks of this season. They look really, really bad right now. Not just from an individual win-loss, one-game standpoint. You might have made a gigantic, tremendous mistake. Maybe you should have asked yourself why, if he's a real franchise quarterback, an elite type of guy, would a team ever be willing to trade him like that? Got to ask yourself those questions sometimes. The Broncos look like big-ass losers right now. They really, really do. And the Miami Dolphins do too. Like, they got crushed by the Jets, and here's a team that started off 3-0, but kind of their in-house mismanagement of Tua led to him being out for this game. Like I said, I could talk about the Teddy Bridgewater stuff. He feels like he got yanked when he shouldn't have by the league, which means you were left with your third stringer, Skylar Thompson. Good luck with that. That was a win that the Dolphins really could have used, especially against a divisional opponent, and now they're sitting there tied with the Jets at 3-2 in second place in that division. Yeehaw to them. And of course, NFL officiating. I'll talk about that in a moment. If that's not the biggest loser of the week, I don't know who the hell is. In terms of some of the big stars for week number 5, Josh Allen, big blowout win over the Steelers, 424 yards passing and 4 touchdowns. Austin Eckler from the running back position, 199 combined yards, over 170 on the ground with a couple of touchdowns. And then you look at your pass catchers. And I'll go with Travis Kelce just because it's such a unique stat line from Monday night. He had 7 catches, yes, but only 25 yards. What? Yeah, but 4 touchdowns. At the end of the day, that's the name of the game, is score points. And by God, he did to the tune of 4 touchdowns. That's insane. And then Taysom Hill, when you talk about just offensive skill players, had 112 rushing yards, 3 rushing touchdowns, a passing touchdown. Like, he's one of those unique kind of outlier players that every team probably wishes deep down they had, because he allows the Saints to do a bunch of different things on offense, and he certainly did, to the tune of they put up 39 points as a team Sunday against the Seahawks. In terms of defenses, I'm going to look at the Patriots. They pitched a shutout, forced a couple of turnovers, took a fumble return back to the house. It was a pretty impressive performance for a team that really needed one. And then in terms of coaches for the week, like, you could go for the Brian Dabolls, you could go for the Nick Siriannis, you could go for a lot of guys who had successful weeks. I'm going to go with Andy Reid, because there's absolutely something to it. Like, You could say, well, they got Mahomes and they got Kelsey. They got weapons on that offense, so of course they're able to come back from 17 points down. But a lot of teams would fold in that case. And that is a direct reflection of the leadership of Andy Reid that they do not. And sometimes it is hard to give the same type of credit to coaches that you expect to do well. Like you have expectations for them. Sometimes you're more likely to gravitate towards those that aren't expected to do so well. But Andy Reid is. But Andy Reid does it consistently year in and year out. And deserves some props for being the type of leader that his team could go down 17-0 and they don't waver in confidence and they come back and win a game. There's a pretty big deal there. But to close out this video, this Week 5 recap, let's talk about NFL officiating. I get that you're trying to protect players. And it's a shame that we even get to this point where I even have to provide that type of like disclaimer or caveat. Like we should all fucking know that. I shouldn't even have to say it. So I'm not going to anymore. This shit has got to change. When people are talking about the officiating more than they are the game, not because they just want to whine, piss, and moan about the officiating, but it is legitimately god-awful terrible, there is something wrong with you. And things need to change. Like I'm not even going to talk about the Amir Smith-Marset like block in the back. I didn't even really feel like a block in the back because that's one thing. That's just like a miscall. But it's more about the situation that you put the officials into. You look at the Grady Jarrett play on Tom Brady. What do you call him the penalty for? Because he tackled him? Well, because he whipped him down. No, he didn't. And even if you want to take that, what's he supposed to do? Not tackle him? Like, give me a fucking break. And then you look at Monday night. What the hell was Chris Jones supposed to do? And what's even more ridiculous about that is he forced the fumble on Derek Carr to the point where as they're going to the ground, Chris Jones has the damn ball in his hands, in possession. Therefore, he's falling on top of the guy that will ultimately be the one that's considered to tackle him in Derek Carr. How the fuck is that roughing the passer? Anybody just stop and think about how stupid that sounds? You force a fumble, and technically, to the letter of the law, the guy that will go in the record books as having tackled you is the guy that you commit a penalty on for roughing the passer when he's no longer the fucking passer because you fell on him, because you forced a fumble and you recovered it. Yes, there is player safety, and then there is fucking, this is insane. You've went too far. Imagine this type of play impacting the Super Bowl. How embarrassing would that be? It can't be that hard to do better. So the NFL in these types of situations, they need to revisit it not at the end of the year. They need to revisit now and fix it because that shit was embarrassing to watch this week.